Hey everybody, welcome to the first Q&A for my Blender jewelry design course for Blender 4.2. This video is going to cover three questions that I've gotten so far online from you guys. I appreciate the questions. As you leave more questions, I'll do more Q&A videos to cover those. So in this video, we're going to cover three things. First is, how do I get the Booltron tools to appear in my Jewelcraft tab? It doesn't come default like that. There's no way to really put it there. However, you have a couple options, and I'm going to show you those options. But I use a free add-on for Blender called Simpletabs. And Simpletabs allows you to move whatever tab you have here in the end panel to another. For instance, if I have something that I want to move from one area to another just to consolidate my tabs, it allows you to do that and make it easy so you don't have so many tabs here on the right-hand side of your viewport. To get to the Simpletabs download, you're going to go to the following website. So I'm going to copy that website over into Google Chrome so you can see what that one is. And Simpletabs is at the following address. So put this website in the web address part and press enter. And it's going to take you to a GitHub page. This GitHub page is created by Chip Walters. Chip creates add-ons for Blender. I use a couple of his add-ons, especially this one I use all the time, and he's got a couple other ones that are really, really helpful. One of the ones I use is for making models and easily blending those models into Blender, but that is a paid asset. If I ever use it in this course, I'll cover that one. So Simpletabs is on this particular page at this particular website, and you can see it's a GNU public license, so it is free to use in any version of Blender. Right now it does work in Blender 4.2, although I don't think it was written for Blender 4.2. You can look at all of the releases here, and here's the asset here. What you can do is, if you go to the main page, you'll see this green code button. To get Simpletabs, what you're going to do is you can hit the drop down arrow here, get that green button, and come over to download zip. Once you do that, it's going to ask you where you want to store it, so just put it someplace where you're going to remember it. I have a folder on my computer specifically for Blender add-ons, and I put all my add-ons in there, and those are all sorted by how I like to categorize my add-ons. Once you have that downloaded from the internet, what you do is you come over to your Blender window here, and you'll see the edit menu. Come down to preferences. It's going to open up the Preferences tab. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. I already have Simpletabs installed. However, if you do not have it installed, you're going to come over to this little drop-down arrow right here. You're going to click that once and then Install from Disk. When you click that, it's going to bring up a browser, and you're going to go find that zip file where you downloaded it, and you're going to install it. So very simple. Hit that drop-down, Install from Disk. Go find that add-on for wherever you put it, and then hit the Install from Disk button. It will install Simpletabs onto your computer. Now, Simpletabs, you'll see it's all in uppercase here. It is a real quick thing here. There's not many options for it. Excludes the item and tools tabs so that you can't add stuff there. However, you can change that however you want to add it or change it. You can show in the sidebar if you want to have it show in the sidebar. You can export your settings in case you want to save all your settings in Simpletab and then import it when a new version comes out. It has a startup delay of about 5 seconds and a popover of 16. You can change that however you want it to be. I'm just going to bring this up to 20 and we'll leave it there. Okay. Once you've installed it and activated it by putting a little check mark in that box next to Simpletabs, you can close up your preferences window and you'll get this little icon here that's a little red circle with a little drop down. If you hit that little drop down, it'll bring up all of the tabs that you have on your machine. So whatever options that you installed that create their own tabs, and these are the tabs here, item, tool, Jewelcraft, edit, and so on, those appear here in the Simpletabs menu. If you want to refresh this, you can hit this little circle here, refresh. You've got your setting options here, and I don't use those much. And then the check mark saves it. You can also create new tabs if you'd like, or move things up and down. Now, I will say in Blender, there's a little bug, and for some reason, your end panel tabs when you're using Simpletabs, will kind of move around once in a while. So you might see, like for instance, my Jewelcraft tool is the third one down here today. In other videos, it might be the fifth one down. It really depends. It's a little bug in the code. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm waiting 5 seconds to load it. However, if you come down to, let's see, Booltron, you guys were asking about Booltron and how I got that into the Jewelcraft tab. When you install Booltron, it'll come in a Booltron tab. So for instance, if I save that and refresh, you'll see now I have a Booltron tab right here. Okay, and you can see the Boolean functions are all listed here. Now, that's all good and dandy. The only problem with that is I'm starting to get more and more tabs here on my end panel, and it becomes harder to find things. Since I use the Jewelcraft tool all the time, I want to take my Booltron Boolean functions and put them into my Jewelcraft tab. To do that, you're going to just bring down this little drop down here, come over to Booltron. You can see I have a Jewelcraft tab right at the top. What I'm going to do is take this Booltron and I'm going to type in this name here, Jewelcraft, into my Booltron options here. So if I type in Jewelcraft and I press the little update button, the check mark, you'll see now that when I go to Jewelcraft, my Boolean functions are listed here as destructive and non-destructive. Okay? Just makes life a whole lot easier. You can do that with any of the tabs and tools that you have on any of these panels just by updating those listed here. When you're all done, just make sure that you hit the little check mark to save it. Okay? And then if you move off, it'll close by itself. So that's the answer to question 1. How do I get multiple functions in my tabs? And that's a quick way to do it, and that is absolutely free. The second question I received was, what function does Command T or Control T, depending on whether you're on a Mac or a PC, why do I use that in the curve settings? Well, I'm going to explain that to you, and I've showed you a couple times in the videos before, and it's kind of confusing to some people, so let's cover that now. When you add in a curve, and I'm just going to add in a curve, and we're going to do a path, okay? I'm going to size that up just to make it a little larger so we can see it in our viewport. And I'm going to look at this from the top down, so I'm going to press 7 on my keyboard. Press Tab to go into edit mode. Now I can take any of these vertices and I can move them around with the arrow keys or the G key, and I can make this curve. This black line is the representation of our curve based on the points or the vertices within this curve object. So if I go into object mode now, you'll see that I have this orange line, which is our curve object. Now, to get this to where we can see what it does, we're going to add in an extrusion to this curve. So I'm going to come over to my curve properties, and under geometry and then extrude, I'm going to make that a little larger. So you can see now I have an object here. It has a face pointing towards the green line. But if I look at this from the other side, you can see it has no opposite face because it's just one thin panel at this point. There's no depth to this. To fix that, what I'm going to do is come over to my modifiers tab. I'm going to add in a solidify modifier. I'm going to shade that flat so that we can see it better. And now that we have this object here, what I can do is now show you what the Command T or Control T does for vertices along a curve object. For instance, if I go into edit mode and I select this particular vertice, the center vertice, and I press Control T or Command T, I can move my mouse up and down and I can pivot the vertice along the curve path. That just makes twisting this curve a little bit nicer. Now, I use this quite often because there's many times where I want something to follow a path but have a different angle to it. This will become much more, you'll become more aware of this as we move forward in some of the models that we design, because a lot of times in jewelry design or any design, you won't have a straight line. You'll have something that's kind of twisty here and there, especially with things like, let's see, halos around a stone. So for instance, if you have a diamond, center diamond, it's like a 1 carat stone, and you have a halo around it, you might want those diamonds to tilt a little bit, not point straight up, but kind of out at an angle a little bit. And I'll cover that when we get into halo designs. The other thing that you can do with this, for instance, is if I want to make this larger on this particular side. So if I look at this from the front panel, the Alt-S key allows me to widen that particular point, okay? Now I can do that on one, but you'll see it affects all the points down the line, and that's not with proportionate spacing on. So if I turn on proportional editing, for instance, and select smooth, and I come over to this vertice, and I hit Alt-S, you'll see we get a circle of influence that I can adjust how I want that to be. So I can make that small, I can make it bigger, and you'll see as it gets larger, my circle of influence, it affects more vertices. Okay, that comes in handy with a lot of ring designs. I'm going to cancel that object. The other thing is if I have a path of diamonds, and let's just do this. Let's go into object mode. I'm going to actually Control Z this back to a straight line. Okay, so we've got a straight line here, and that is a curve object. If you remember, if I come over to add gems, and let's add in a 2mm diamond and a round one, we've got that there. And if I take that, and let's just change the name here to diamond path, because you'll see I do that quite a bit. And I take my diamond, shift select the path. What I'm going to do now is come over to my Jewel Craft tab and distribute that onto the curve. So now I get 10 diamonds on that path, and of course I can increase those diamonds like so. The cool thing about this is if I want this to be kind of a twisted effect along a path, I can select my diamond path, and I can come over here, let's see, grab the diamond path here, hit tab to go into edit mode, and let's say I want to twist these diamonds one way or another. I can press the Control T key, and let's turn off proportional editing. We don't need that. So Control T or Command T, and you can see I'm only affecting that one vertice, but it's kind of changing the pivot point or the angle at which our diamonds are twisting. Okay, so that's what the Command T and Control T do. It allows you to twist or rotate along this path a certain vertice. I hope that helps. I'd like you to go play with that just to get an idea of how it works, and you can get an idea of how each function works overall. So that Command T and the Alt S are two things that I use a lot when I'm doing jewelry design. The last question I got was, how do I know what keys do what? Blender has literally, I think, close to 200 shortcut keys that you can use in Blender itself. So there's another place that you can download a PDF file and get an idea of what all these keys do. Now, just remember, these are based on standard Blender with no add-ons. Sometimes you'll put add-ons in Blender, you'll load in an add-on, and it will overwrite a specific key combination. For instance, in Blender, we have the Q key, which is the quick menu. But if you have a different add-on, for instance, I have hard ops installed, the Q key overrides that. Okay, I could press Alt Q, and that's a whole different function. See, that's a save and close. We want to cancel that. Or Shift Q, and that's curve adjust in hard ops. Okay, or Alt Q, which does nothing. So the Q key, which is for the quick menu, which I used to use quite a bit, is now overtaken by the add-on that I have called hard ops. So depending on the add-ons that you install, certain key combinations or shortcuts may or may not be available to you. Just keep that in mind. In this course, I'm trying not to use too many functions, and I will try to always use shortcut keys to make life easy. To get a list of all the shortcut keys, what you want to do is you want to come over to the following website. And I'm going to bring back my browser here, and we'll copy this particular website here. I'm going to paste in the new website to go to and press enter, and that's going to take us to this particular page. This is a PDF document with all of the standard shortcut keys. However, this is Blender 2.36. It hasn't really changed much for Blender 4.2, so this is a good reference to go by. I suggest if you download this, either download it and keep it handy, or print it out and keep it close to your computer so that you can reference these. One of the things I like to do is I'll take this, I'll print it out. When I'm sitting around doing nothing, I'll read these things, and unfortunately, I remember most of the stuff that I read, so I can kind of go back and remember that certain key functions do certain things. and that helps me to reference those later. And sometimes even if you don't remember it, when you're using Blender, you'll kind of hit a little mark that says, oh yeah, I remember that shortcut key. And it makes life just a whole lot easier to do certain things. So go to that website. And again, these links are in the description below. This video, guys, is made public for the few of you who are not members yet that have asked questions. However, all the Q&As in the future will be accessible by members only. So keep that in mind. If you ask questions and you aren't a member, you're not going to have access to the Q&As from this point forward. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I hope these 3 questions got answered appropriately. If you do have any more questions, please leave them in the comments section below, and I will do my best, at least weekly, to go ahead and answer these. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.